Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into my official college football week number 6 picks and predictions, where I predict the final score of every college football game involving a ranked team. And we begin with the number 4 team in the nation, coming off a bye, Ohio State. This game taking place at noon. Hey, at least it's not on Peacock. It is on Big Noon. The Buckeyes sitting minus 18. They were originally minus 21. It got bet down 3 points immediately. Maryland, everyone wondering, would this be a ranked v ranked matchup? We were close to getting it. Maryland would be the 26th team. They were the first team out in terms of the top 25, receiving votes. But in this game, guys, Ohio State minus the 18. I'm going to go with the Buckeyes coming close to covering. I guess I do have the differential at 18 points. That's pretty bad. Normally I don't do that, but maybe a push on Ohio State minus 18. I do love the over. This feels like a situation where the Buckeyes are 1-3 in terms of games going over. They're coming off a bye. They're going to score a little bit. Maryland, this is a good test for Ohio State at home. It's a little baby test against the team that's got a veteran quarterback. They've been scoring. We know Ohio State's defense has been better this year. We will see. But I've got maybe a little bit higher scoring game, 42-24. If the number drops below 18, I guess I would go with Ohio State. The next noon game, and here it is, guys. This week certainly is better than last week. I don't think it's nearly as good as the week before last week, but it's better than last week, and this is part of it, the Red River rivalry. This is probably one of the best games of the year. Analytically, Oklahoma, believe it or not, they're a top 3 team in college football because they've been so ridiculously efficient on both offense and defense. Texas, on the other hand, they've got the huge win in Tuscaloosa. They just crushed Kansas. They've got a solid resume. They're sitting at number 3 in the nation. This game, obviously, neutral site, 11 a.m. Central start time. The rivalry, Texas minus 5. ESPN FPI says value on Oklahoma plus the 5. They give Oklahoma, because of the analytics, a 54% chance to win. My main issue with Oklahoma coming into this game, they have no rushing ability. They have none. I do think Dylan Gabriel is a better college quarterback than Quinn Ewers, but it's negligible. And you also have Texas with all those skill position players. Xavier Worthy, the receiver transfer from Georgia, they're impressive. And they also have a running back who just ran for 200 yards against Kansas. I will take the Oklahoma plus the 5, but we know how these rivalry games are. They're crazy. It's high scoring. I love the over as long. Yes, the over-under in the 70s in this game. I don't think it would be. It'd probably be in like the low 60s, but I will take Oklahoma plus the 5. Texas, though, it seems like it's their year to make the playoff. College football needs it. It would be great for the sport. But guys, trust me, this Oklahoma team, they're really good. And even if Oklahoma loses this game, they're certainly not out of it. Although I will say they do not have a good resume right now. They do not have a good win, but losing by 3 against a Texas team. If Texas wins this game, they're probably ranked number 1, because who's got a better resume than them? And Michigan and Georgia have been struggling this year. The next noon game, it is LSU at Missouri. So this is a brutal one for Missouri. They come into this game undefeated, and they get slapped with an 11 a.m. Central start time. You're kidding me. LSU sitting minus 6. This is another one of those unique scenarios, guys. We see this with college football. It happens 2 or 3 times a year. You have a 2-loss team who's clearly more talented than an undefeated team. They're sitting 6-point favorites. So what does the NPC say? OMG, there's great value on Missouri. They're undefeated. They're plus 6. They're going to keep it close. LSU's defense is terrible. Guys, you can't do that. You have to go against the grain. You have to take LSU to stabilize in this game. I understand their defense is not good, but this is one of those games. This is a correction game. LSU will win this fairly easily, 37-21 over a Missouri team. And again, I feel bad for Missouri. Missouri should be in the spotlight. This should be a 3:30 game, a 7:30 game, whatever you want. But no one really thought Missouri would be undefeated at this point. LSU wins this game and surprisingly covers. That's a big line right there for a team with 2 losses going on the road against an undefeated team. Sometimes you got to sniff it out, guys, and I've sniffed this one out. It's fishy. It's too good to be true. true, and it's not going to happen. I'll take LSU against the grain minus the 6. Next, we're moving on to the 3 o'clock games. So I guess this is a noon start time at the Rose Bowl. It's UCLA and Washington State. UCLA sitting minus 3. Very low-key game. But guys, I've been playing the Pac-12 like a fiddle for the past 3 weeks, and I've got another one. Washington State due for a loss. Trust Chip Kelly. Dante Moore getting better, growing as a superstar true freshman. And again, the whole thing with Washington State, they've had a nice start. They are not the 13th best team in college football. Give me UCLA. I think they're minus 3.5, by the way. That's a bit of an annoying number, but I'll take them to win by 10, 35-25 over a good Washington State team. UCLA gets back on track after the horrible performance in Utah. The next game, it's a 3:30 game, kind of a weird matchup. Virginia Tech traveling to Tallahassee to take on Florida State. Florida State, a massive number, minus 25.5. This number kind of reminds me of the Boston College line. You know, maybe Florida State coming off the bye, they right the wrongs, they win this game 42-7. But Virginia Tech, the last few weeks, they've been scoring some points. So I do think Virginia Tech and the analytics, they agree with me. A lot of the analytical models love this bet of Virginia Tech plus the 25.5. Just seems like a little bit too much. Even though Virginia Tech's not very good, they can keep it within 25.5. Again, I understand Florida State coming off the bye. Maybe they're really into it. They had the game against Boston College. They don't want to let that happen again. They have had a tough schedule on the road at Clemson, the LSU game. But it just feels like 25.5 is a little bit disrespectful to a Virginia Tech team who can kind of score even though their program is in a horrible place right now. Another 3:30 game. I'm guessing this is the 3:30 CBS game. You do have Alabama right now ranked outside of the top 10 at number 11, taking on Texas A&M, who really is almost looking like they should be ranked. Bama sitting minus 3.5. Very interesting game with Texas A&M losing Connor Wigman. They've got Max Johnson. The resurgence he's had, it has been inspirational. And then Bama, on the other hand, they've turned into a defense running team exclusively, and I'm really liking it. Alabama against Mississippi State, they were minus 14, but I didn't think they'd cover, and they did easily. And it's not even like they outgained Mississippi State by that much. They outgained it by like 100 yards, won by 23 points. I like what Nick Saban is doing under the radar, and A&M, for as nice of a year and a bounce back as they've had, Bama's just more talented. Nick Saban is not going to lose at Kyle Field again. He knows what's on the line. They cannot lose another game right now. They will win this one. It'll be a hard-fought, lower... Well, I guess that's not too low scoring. I've got Bama 31-24. They ride Jalen Milroe's running ability. They ride their defense against a quarterback who's had a nice year, but he's still nothing special, Johnson. And I'll take Bama to cover the 3.5 on the road. Next, we have Syracuse traveling to North Carolina. North Carolina coming off a bye, sitting at number 14, sitting minus 9 in this game. That's disrespectful to a Syracuse team who's blown some teams out. And guys, last week, we all know Clemson beat Syracuse. We pretty much knew that was going to happen. This week, we're backing on Syracuse. Syracuse in an absolute white whale renaissance upset over North Carolina. This is my endgame. This is my Super Bowl. Syracuse University over a North Carolina team who I've said for a while now, and it still is the right take. Guys, North Carolina's not that good. They're gonna lose at some point. They have to lose. They don't have a good roster. They've got Drake May who just throws it up. It's not going to happen. This is going to be a game, Syracuse on the road, North Carolina minus 9. There's no way. Every analytical model says the spread should be about 3 or 4 points. I'll take Syracuse plus the 9 in a 3:30 game. How about a ranked v. ranked matchup? It's a 7 o'clock game. I'm guessing this is on ESPN. We've got Kentucky coming in at number 20. I don't think Kentucky should be ranked 20th, but that's a different story. And then we do have Georgia still at number 1. There's been talk about Georgia. Do you move them down? They're 0-5 against the spread. They're sitting minus 15 in this game at home. Kentucky with Devin Leary, they just don't do it for me. This is your typical Georgia trouncing 42-10 and an easy cover of the 15. It's just the thing with Kentucky. We see this coming from a mile away, and at this point, we watched so much college football. We know what's going to happen. We can understand. We can envision it in our heads. It's going to be an absolute beatdown. There's no way. Who has Kentucky beaten? You want to say Kentucky's beaten Florida? Yo, Florida's just not very good, folks. I'm sorry. They're not. They shouldn't have been ranked. It was a battle of the overrateds. The winner of the battle of the overrateds was inevitably going to be overrated, and that happened to be Kentucky. So I will take Georgia to win this game easily. Moving on to the 7:30 window, this is an NBC game. It is Minnesota getting Michigan. So Michigan traveling to Minnesota. I don't know the last time they've been there. Michigan sitting at number 2. There was talk of them possibly moving to number 1. They're minus 19.5. And guys, Minnesota just cannot score. So I do think Michigan covers yet another spread, wins this game relatively easily. I'm actually being nice to Minnesota in this one. I mean, this is a game where you thought at the beginning of the season, maybe Michigan might have a little bit trouble on the road, possibly a night game, but that's really not a raucous environment. Although I will say, who remembers that noon game? I guess it would have been an 11 a.m. Central game, Penn State at Minnesota, when Minnesota had Tanner Morgan and they won. And they were like ranked really high. I'll tell you, that was a raucous environment. But in general, they really don't have a great crowd. And this is a game where Minnesota's not good this year. Let's just call it what it is. They have no offense. So I'll take Michigan to win. And it feels like with Harbaugh, they're really starting to come into their own. They're becoming a well-oiled machine. They always peak throughout the year. Michigan wins that game easily. Here's a big ABC game. Once again, Notre Dame getting a huge game. They're on the road, ranked number 10, after beating Duke in kind of a weird game where a lot of people, surprised that Notre Dame almost lost that one. They will take on Louisville, who is ranked at number 25. They are undefeated. This is a huge game for Louisville. They're sitting minus 6.5. And guys, it seems almost too good to be true. Last week, everyone was in on Duke. I said take Notre Dame minus the 5, and I'll be honest, I got lucky. Duke probably should have won that game, but now I'm actually agreeing with people, and I'm saying we need to take the road value here. We need to take Louisville plus the 6.5. It's their Super Bowl. It's their big game. They're ranked. It's going to be raucous. This is going to be like the biggest game for Louisville at home since Lamar Jackson was there. So I do think Notre Dame wins this game, but it's been a gauntlet for Notre Dame. They're probably tired at this point. It's Ohio State. It's at Duke. It's at Louisville. Notre Dame somehow pulls this game out, but Louisville, we like them plus the 6.5. Another 7:30 game. It is Arkansas at Ole Miss. So Ole Miss coming in at number 16, and this is a chance for Ole Miss at home to flex a little bit. Last week beating LSU, they're back-to-back home games now. They scored like 50-plus points last week. They're minus 11 against an Arkansas team who's really had a down year, but this is still an Arkansas team who can score a little bit. They've got a solid veteran quarterback, and I do think it's kind of the way things go with Lane Kiffin. He covers one week and then doesn't cover the next week, so I'll take Ole Miss to win this game, but this game reminds me a lot of Arkansas at LSU. Remember a few weeks ago when LSU was sitting minus 17 and I told everyone to take Arkansas plus the 17. I think Ole Miss wins this just like I predicted LSU to win it, but I think it's closer. So I do like Arkansas plus the 11 on the road. That was an emotional game last week for Ole Miss. They're going to be drained a little bit. I do think they do enough to win this game, but it's going to be a closer than expected final score there. Next, it is an 8 o'clock game. It is Miami taking on Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, I was pretty high on Georgia Tech. I had liked them a few weeks ago. They won me an upset game. And then last week, they got destroyed by Bowling Green. That's just crazy. But they're going on the road against a Miami team. Miami, I believe they're coming off a bye. They're sitting minus 20 in this one. Kind of a weird late 8 o'clock game at Hard Rock Stadium. And it's just impossible, even though you could say there's good value on Georgia Tech in a bounce-back effort, it's just impossible for me to take Georgia Tech right now, man. You're losing to Bowling Green. I could take them and try and be funny, and who knows, it's college football. They might end up covering and making this game close, but it's just very hard at this point, especially Miami coming off a bye. Tyler Van Dyke playing like we thought he would play last year. They win this game easily, 44-21. Another 8 o'clock game. Here's a big one. Surprising big game. Fresno State at Wyoming. Fresno State moves up one spot. They're at number 24. They're undefeated. Wyoming, sneaky good team. They're really good at home. Watch out for this game. Fresno State, they are not the best team in the Mountain West. That is Air Force. Air Force is the best team in the Mountain West, and Fresno State will lose this game. We love Wyoming, the value, plus the 6.5. Great value at home. They will beat Fresno State. Fresno State, kind of a weird effort last week. They were sitting like minus 27 or 26. They end up not covering. We will take Wyoming to win this game outright. Moving on to the late night windows, the 10 o'clock game. It is Oregon State, who's unfortunately been kind of irrelevant the past few weeks because they're playing really late. They will be going to Cal. Oregon State sitting -9. And this is one of those games where you get the vibe. It's like a Pac-12 after dark game. You just know it's going to be close. So I think Oregon State wins this game, but they're not going to cover the 9. I've got them winning 33-27 against the Cal team. We know Cal's not very good, but they're not horrible. They can score some. They're going to be at home at Cal Memorial Stadium. It could be close at the end there. And then the 10:30 game, the really late game, it is USC at number 9 and their bad defense taking on Arizona. USC -22 in this game, and I do have USC winning but not covering, although it's very hard to bet USC just because of how bad their defense is. Normally what they tend to do is they'll cover one week and then they'll not cover the next. So if you're, judging it by that, they didn't cover last week against Colorado, so you would think they would really run it up at home against Arizona. I don't know. I think Arizona has a decent enough offense, though, to score into the 20s. It just depends, will USC... Actually, I don't think USC has covered either of the last 2 weeks because they didn't cover against Arizona State either. So they've really been on a cold streak. So maybe they will get their act together and cover in this game, but I just can't predict it because of how bad their defense has been. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for my official college football week number 5 picks and predictions. Make sure you're following me on X. Link to that's always in the description.